The stars looked peaceful through the viewing window of the horizon's edge. Captain Jake Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the distant nebula paint colors across the darkness. His ship had been exploring this sector for 3 months now, mapping routes and checking for habitable planets. It was routine work, but Jake enjoyed it. After 20 years in space, he still found beauty in the endless void. "Captain, we're picking up something on long-range sensors," Lieutenant Amy Fletcher called from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls, her eyes narrowing at the readings. "It's big. Really big." Jake walked over to her console and looked at the data. His stomach tightened. The sensors showed at least 40 ships, all moving in formation. These weren't civilian vessels. They were warships, and they were heading straight toward human territory. "All hands to stations," Jake said calmly. "Amy, try to get a visual. Let's see what we're dealing with." The main screen flickered to life, and Jake felt his breath catch. The ships were massive, each one at least 3 times the size of the horizon's edge. They had sharp angles and dark armor that seemed to absorb light. Weapons ports lined their hulls like teeth in a massive jaw. These were ships built for one purpose only: war. "They're hailing us," said Commander Lisa Grant from the communications station. She was new to the crew, but Jake trusted her skills.
"Audio and visual."
"Should I put it through?" "Do it," Jake replied. The screen changed to show an alien face. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, gray-scaled skin, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. It wore what looked like military decorations across its chest. When it spoke, the translator made its voice sound deep and threatening. "I am Ambassador General Krethva of the Vraxian Empire," the alien said. "You will identify yourself and your species immediately." Jake straightened his uniform. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration vessel Horizon's Edge. We're on a peaceful mapping mission in this sector. Is there something we can help you with?" Krethva's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Humans, we have not encountered your species before. That means you are weak and newly arrived in this region of space. The Vraxian Empire claims this territory and all surrounding systems. You will provide us with the coordinates of all human colonies, your military strength, and your technological capabilities." Jake kept his voice steady. "I'm afraid I can't do that, but I'd be happy to arrange a meeting between your government and ours. We believe in peaceful cooperation between species." The alien made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "Cooperation? You misunderstand your situation, human. The Vraxian Empire does not cooperate with inferior species. We conquer them. You have 2 choices: surrender now and serve us, or be destroyed. We will give your species 30 of your days to comply. If you refuse, we will eliminate every human in the galaxy." Dr. Henry Walsh, the ship's xenobiologist, stepped forward. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. "Ambassador General, surely there's no need for threats. The galaxy is large enough for all of us. If you give us a chance to talk—" "Silence!" Krethva roared. "To show you that we are serious, we will now demonstrate our power." The screen went dark. Jake immediately turned to Amy. "Get me a tactical read on their weapons. Now." "They're targeting the research station," Amy shouted. "Captain, there are people there." Jake's mind raced. The research station was unmanned except for 3 scientists studying cosmic radiation patterns. It was a small facility, barely defended. "Hail the station. Tell them to evacuate immediately." Lisa's hands flew across her console. "I'm trying, but the Vraxians are jamming all frequencies. The station can't hear us." On the screen, one of the Vraxian warships fired. A beam of purple energy crossed the distance in seconds and struck the small research station. The explosion was bright and brief. When it faded, there was nothing left but debris. The bridge fell silent. Jake felt his hands curl into fists. 3 people had just died. 3 scientists who were studying stars, not bothering anyone, not threatening anyone, dead because an alien empire wanted to make a point. Krethva's face appeared on the screen again. "That is what happens to those who defy the Vraxian Empire. Your 30 days begin now. Surrender or die. There is no third option." The transmission ended. Jake stood perfectly still for a moment. Around him, his crew waited for orders. He could see the anger on their faces, the shock and fear mixed together. Amy's jaw was clenched. Lisa's eyes were wide. Henry looked like he might be sick. "Lisa, did you record everything?" Jake asked quietly. "Yes, sir. Every word, every image. Good. Prepare a priority transmission to Earth Command. Full encryption, fastest route possible." Include all sensor data on those ships, the recording of our conversation, and the coordinates of where the station used to be. What should the message say? Lisa asked. Jake thought about the three scientists. He thought about their families back on Earth who would soon learn they were dead. He thought about Krethva's arrogant voice, his casual dismissal of human life, his assumption that humanity would just roll over and surrender. Tell them that the Vraxian Empire has declared war on humanity, Jake said. Tell them that we lost 3 civilians in an unprovoked attack. And tell them, he paused, choosing his words carefully, tell them that these aliens have no idea what they've just done. Amy looked up at him. Sir, what do we do now? We follow them at a safe distance, Jake replied. We learn everything we can about their fleet composition, their tactics, their technology. We send regular updates back to Earth Command. And we stay alive long enough to watch what happens when the Vraxians realize they've made the biggest mistake in their empire's history. You think Earth will fight? Henry asked. Jake turned to look at the debris field where the station had been. 3 people. 3 innocent people who had families and friends and dreams, dead because one species thought they could bully another. Oh, they'll fight, Jake said softly. The Vraxians think we're weak because they've never met us before. They think we're easy prey because we talk about peace, but they don't know about Earth's history. They don't know about the wars we've fought, the weapons we've built, the enemies we've faced. They see us as just another species to conquer. He looked around at his crew. But we're not. We're humans, and humans have one rule that we've learned over thousands of years of bloody history. You can negotiate with us, you can trade with us, you can be our friends. But if you attack us, if you kill our people without cause, if you threaten our families and our homes, he paused. Then we become something else entirely. We become the thing that gives nightmares to species like the Vraxians. Lisa sent the transmission. The message raced toward Earth at faster than light speeds, carrying news that would change everything. Jake Morrison returned to the viewing window and watched the Vraxian fleet disappear into the distance. They were heading toward human space, confident in their power, certain of their victory. They had no idea that they hadn't just attacked a species. They had awakened something that had been sleeping peacefully for decades, something that humanity had tried very hard to leave behind. They had awakened the warrior species that had once turned its own planet into a battlefield and somehow survived to reach the stars. And now, that species was going to teach the Vraxians a lesson that would echo through the galaxy for centuries to come. The emergency meeting room in Earth Command was packed with people. Admiral Patricia Cole stood at the head of the long table, her gray uniform pressed and perfect despite the fact that she had been woken up at 3 a.m. Around her sat the most important military and political leaders of humanity. The lights were bright, the air was tense, and everyone was waiting to hear what she had to say. 2 hours ago, we received a priority transmission from Captain Morrison of the Horizon's Edge, Patricia began. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hard as steel. An alien species called the Vraxian Empire has declared war on humanity. They have given us 30 days to surrender all our colonies, technology, and resources. They have also destroyed a research station, killing 3 of our people. The room erupted in angry voices. General Marcus Webb slammed his fist on the table. They killed our people, without even trying to negotiate? They did negotiate, Patricia said coldly. They told us to surrender or die. Then they killed 3 scientists just to prove they were serious. President Helen Carter sat at the far end of the table. She was a small woman with brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had been president for 6 years, and in that time, she had kept humanity safe through careful diplomacy and smart planning. But now her face showed the same cold anger that everyone else felt. How many ships do they have? She asked. Patricia pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed the Vraxian fleet in detail. At least 40 capital ships in the fleet that attacked the station. Intelligence suggests they have several hundred more throughout their empire. They control 17 star systems and have conquered 14 different species over the past 500 years. And they think we'll be number 15, Marcus said. He was a large man with dark skin and a scar across his left cheek from an accident years ago. He had been a soldier all his life, and he knew how to read military situations. They're expecting an easy victory. They're about to be very disappointed, said a new voice. Everyone turned to look at Dr. Richard Stone. He was the director of Advanced Weapons Research, a thin man with nervous hands and brilliant eyes. Most people didn't know much about what he did, and that was exactly how he wanted it. "Show them," President Carter said quietly. Richard stood up and brought up his own holographic display. For the past 30 years, ever since we had our first hostile encounter with an alien species, humanity has been preparing. We knew that eventually we would meet someone who wanted to fight rather than talk, so we've been building. The display changed to show ship designs, sleek warships with advanced weapons, carrier vessels that could deploy hundreds of fighters, heavy cruisers with armor that could withstand incredible punishment. We currently have 2,300 warships distributed across human space. Richard continued. Each one is equipped with weapons that have been refined through centuries of human warfare experience. We have kinetic weapons that can punch through most known types of armor. We have energy weapons with adjustable frequencies. We have missile systems with AI guidance that can adapt to enemy countermeasures. He brought up another display. We also have defensive systems that most alien species have never even thought of. Adaptive shields that learn from each hit and adjust their frequency. Armor that disperses energy across its surface. Electronic warfare suites that can jam, hack, or take control of enemy systems. Marcus leaned forward, studying the displays with interest. "You've been busy." "That's not all," Richard said. He looked excited now, like a child showing off a favorite toy. "We've been studying every alien species we've encountered. We know their biology, their psychology, their cultural weaknesses. We've developed cyber warfare packages that can infiltrate alien computer systems. We've created communication jammers that can blind entire fleets. We've even developed kinetic bombardment systems that can strike targets from orbit with perfect accuracy." Patricia smiled grimly. "The Vraxians think they're attacking a primitive species. They have no idea that humanity has been preparing for war since before we even left Earth. It's what we do. It's what we've always done." President Carter stood up. Everyone fell silent, waiting for her to speak. She walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Millions of people were down there, going about their lives, completely unaware that their species had just been threatened with extinction. "I took an oath when I became president," she said softly. "I swore to protect humanity from all threats, foreign and domestic. I swore to preserve our way of life and ensure our survival." She turned back to face the room. "The Vraxians have given us a choice, surrender or fight. They expect us to surrender. They think we're weak because we prefer peace." She walked back to the table and placed both hands on its surface. "But our preference for peace has never meant we're incapable of war. It just means we're smart enough to avoid it when possible. The Vraxians have made it impossible. They've killed our people. They've threatened our children. They've given us no choice. So we fight," Marcus said. "We fight," Helen confirmed. "But we don't just fight to survive. We fight to win. We fight to send a message to every species in this galaxy. Humanity is not prey. We are not victims. We are not easy targets." Her voice grew harder. "We are the species that survived an ice age with nothing but stone tools. We are the species that split the atom and walked on the moon. We are the species that turned our own planet into a battlefield dozens of times and somehow learned from it instead of destroying ourselves." Patricia nodded. "I'll begin the mobilization immediately. Every military vessel will be recalled and armed. We'll activate the reserve fleets and begin converting civilian ships for military support. Colony militias will be put on high alert." "What about the other alien species?" someone asked. "The Confederation of Aligned Worlds. Will they help us?" Helen shook her head. "The Confederation is a trade organization, not a military alliance. They'll stay neutral. Some of them might even be happy to see us destroyed because we're competition. But that's fine. We don't need their help. We never have." She looked around the room at all the faces. Military leaders, scientists, politicians. They were all human, and they all understood what was about to happen. "Send a message to all human colonies," Helen ordered. "Tell them what's happened. Tell them we're going to war. Tell them not to be afraid, because we've been preparing for this moment since the day we learned we weren't alone in the universe." Marcus stood up. "And what do we tell the Vraxians?" Helen smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "Tell them nothing. Let them come. Let them bring their fleet and their arrogance and their certainty that they'll win easily, and when they arrive at the first human colony, expecting to find scared civilians ready to surrender, they'll find the United Earth Defense Force waiting for them," Patricia finished. "And then they'll learn what every bully throughout human history has eventually learned. Picking on someone smaller than you is only smart if they're actually weaker. And humanity has never been weak. We've just been patient. The meeting ended and the orders went out. Across 32 colony worlds and 45 space stations, humanity began to mobilize. Ships that had been in storage were brought online. Weapons that had been kept in reserve were distributed. Soldiers who had been training for years finally had a purpose. And deep in a classified research facility, Dr. Richard Stone looked at his most secret project. It was a weapon system so devastating that he had hoped they would never need to use it. But if the Vraxians pushed them hard enough, if they threatened Earth itself, then humanity would show them something that no alien species had ever seen. They would show them what happens when a species that invented nuclear weapons, biological warfare, and artificial intelligence decides that it has no choice but to fight for survival. The Vraxians had 30 days to reach human space. They thought it would be enough time to prepare for an easy conquest. They were wrong. Captain Nicole Sanders sat in the command chair of the Silent Runner, watching her screens with intense focus. Her ship was special. It was a stealth vessel, designed to go places where other ships couldn't, to see things that others couldn't see, and to leave without anyone knowing they had been there. Right now she was deep inside Vraxian space, and if they detected her, she would be dead in seconds. "How are we looking?" she whispered to her crew. On stealth ships, everyone spoke quietly, as if the enemy might somehow hear them through the vacuum of space. "All stealth systems operating at maximum efficiency," her pilot replied. His name was Kevin Brooks, and he had been flying stealth missions for 10 years. "They have no idea we're here," Nicole smiled. The Vraxians had powerful sensors and weapons, but their technology was built for direct confrontation. They expected enemies to come at them head-on, guns blazing, fleets against fleets. They didn't understand the concept of stealth warfare because they had never needed it. When you're the biggest bully in the galaxy, you don't need to hide. "Mark another supply depot on the map," Nicole said. "That's the 5th one in the system alone." For 2 weeks, the Silent Runner and 3 other stealth ships had been mapping Vraxian territory. They cataloged every military installation, every supply route, every communication relay, and every fuel station. The Vraxians had built their empire on overwhelming force, but they had never considered that someone might study their logistics. Back on Earth, Commander Derek Hayes studied the maps that the stealth ships were sending back. He was in charge of the first strike fleet, and his job was to hurt the Vraxians before they ever reached human space. He was a tall man with red hair and green eyes, and he'd spent 20 years learning how to fight smart instead of fighting hard. "They're vulnerable," he said to his staff officers. "Look at this. Their main fleet is here, heading toward our space, but their supply lines stretch back through 3 systems. They have fuel depots here, here, and here. Ammunition storage here. Ship repair facilities here and here." One of his officers, a young woman named Katie Mills, nodded. "If we cut their supply lines, the main fleet will be stranded." "Exactly," Derek said. "The Vraxians have never fought an enemy that understood logistics. They just point their ships at a target and go. But ships need fuel. Guns need ammunition. Damaged hulls need repair. Take those things away, and even the biggest fleet becomes helpless." He activated the communication system. "All strike teams, this is Commander Hayes. You have your targets. Remember the rules. Hit hard, hit fast, and get out before they can respond. We're not trying to fight them head-on. We're trying to cut their legs out from under them. Go." Across human space, dozens of small, fast ships jumped into hyperspace. They appeared at Vraxian supply depots in quick flashes of light, unleashed their weapons, and disappeared before the defenders could react. Fuel storage tanks exploded in massive fireballs. Ammunition dumps detonated in chain reactions that could be seen from orbit. Repair facilities were reduced to twisted metal. The Vraxians tried to respond, but they were too slow. By the time their defense fleets arrived, the human ships were already gone, jumping to their next target. It was like trying to swat flies with a hammer. Ambassador General Krethva watched the reports with growing fury. In just 3 days, the humans had destroyed 17 major supply installations. His fleet was still heading toward human space, but now they were running low on fuel and ammunition. Ship captains were reporting that they would need to stop and resupply soon. "How are these humans doing this?" he roared at his advisors. "They should be cowering in fear, waiting for us to arrive and conquer them. Instead, they're attacking us in our own territory. They're using small, fast ships," one advisor said nervously. "They strike without warning and retreat before we can counterattack. It's dishonorable, General." Krethiva's 4 eyes blazed with anger. "Dishonorable? They're cowards. Real warriors face their enemies directly, fleet against fleet, strength against strength. These humans fight like insects, stinging and running away. What Krethva didn't understand was that humans had learned long ago that honor doesn't win wars, strategy wins wars, and humanity had been perfecting strategy for thousands of years. While the Vraxians were trying to protect their supply lines, Dr. Henry Walsh was working with military intelligence to understand how Vraxians thought. He studied every piece of information the stealth ships had gathered, every intercepted communication, every cultural database they could access. They valued direct confrontation, he explained to Commander Hayes. In their culture, retreating from a fight is deeply shameful. A Vraxian commander who runs from battle even to regroup will lose all respect from his subordinates. Derek's eyes lit up. So if we bait them into chasing us and they'll follow even if it's tactically stupid, Henry finished. They can't help themselves. It's built into their psychology. Derek immediately saw how to use this weakness. He sent his ships to attack Vraxian military outposts near their borders. When the Vraxian defenders came out to fight, the human ships would fire a few shots and then retreat. The Vraxians, unable to let an enemy escape, would pursue aggressively, right into carefully prepared ambushes. Human ships would hide near asteroid fields or nebulas, waiting. When the Vraxians chased the bait ships into the trap, they would suddenly find themselves surrounded by human forces. Missiles would rain down from all directions. Energy weapons would crossfire through their formations, and before they could organize a response, the human ships would jump away, leaving nothing but debris. The Vraxians lost ship after ship to these tactics. Their commanders knew they were being manipulated, but their cultural honor code wouldn't let them stop pursuing. To retreat was to be shamed. To let an enemy escape was to be weak. Meanwhile, another team of human specialists was working on something the Vraxians had never encountered: cyber warfare. Lieutenant Chris Palmer led a team of hackers who had studied Vraxian computer systems. They found that Vraxian security was strong against physical attacks but weak against digital intrusion. The Vraxians had simply never considered that someone might attack their computers. Chris and his team infiltrated Vraxian communication networks. They couldn't control Vraxian ships, but they could do something almost as good. They could make the Vraxians see things that weren't there. False sensor readings showed human fleets where there were none. Communication intercepts were altered to make Vraxian commanders think they were under attack from multiple directions. Navigation data was corrupted, sending ships to the wrong coordinates. The Vraxian military fell into chaos. Commanders couldn't trust their sensors. Communications were unreliable, supply lines were broken, and everywhere they turned, humans seemed to be waiting to ambush them. Admiral Patricia Cole watched the battle reports with satisfaction. In just 3 weeks, human forces had destroyed 34 Vraxian capital ships, 72 smaller vessels, and countless support craft. They had demolished military bases, supply depots, and communication relays throughout Vraxian space. And most importantly, they had done all of this without losing a single colony world or even fighting a major fleet engagement. The Vraxians still outnumber us, Marcus reminded her. If they reach our colonies with their main fleet, they could still do serious damage. Patricia nodded. But they won't reach our colonies. Not as a cohesive force. They're scattered, confused, running low on supplies and fighting an enemy they don't understand. Every day they get weaker, and we get stronger. She pulled up a display showing the current location of the Vraxian main fleet. They had stopped advancing and were trying to regroup. Some of their ships were breaking away, trying to return to Vraxian space to resupply. They're starting to realize they made a mistake, Patricia said quietly. They came here thinking they would conquer us in a few weeks. Instead, we've torn apart their empire from the inside. We've destroyed their infrastructure. We've humiliated their military, and we haven't even started the main battle yet. Marcus looked at the display and shook his head in amazement. They really had no idea what they were dealing with, did they? No, Patricia agreed. They saw a species that preferred peace and thought we were weak. They didn't understand that humans have been fighting wars since we lived in caves. We've perfected warfare over thousands of years, and we've learned every dirty trick, every tactical advantage, every psychological weapon that exists. She zoomed in on the location of the Vraxian homeworld. And now it's time to teach them the final lesson. It's time to show them what happens when you threaten humanity. Send the order to all fleets, prepare for the final assault. We're taking this war to their doorstep. The Vraxian Empire was collapsing. Ambassador General Krethva stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the reports flow in, and each one was worse than the last. His military had been the most powerful force in this region of space for 500 years. They had conquered 14 species without serious resistance. And now, in just 5 weeks, the humans had torn it all apart. Another supply convoy destroyed, one of his officers reported. The humans hit them near the Kelvar system. All 12 ships lost. Our forces in the Draxus sector are requesting permission to retreat, another officer said. They're outnumbered and running out of ammunition. Krethva felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not just fear of losing, but fear of what the humans would do if they won. He had studied the reports of human tactics, and what he saw terrified him. These weren't warriors fighting for honor. These were predators hunting prey, and they were very, very good at it. He activated his communication system. Connect me with the Confederation of Aligned Worlds. We need their help. There was a long pause. Then a voice came through belonging to Ambassador Krellox of the Confederation, Ambassador General Krethva. We have been watching your war with the humans with great interest. Then you know we need assistance, Krethva said. The humans are more dangerous than we anticipated. If they defeat us, they might turn their attention to other species. You should help us stop them before they become an even greater threat. Another long pause. Then Krellox spoke again, and his voice was cold. The Confederation has voted to remain neutral in this conflict. We will not assist the Vraxian Empire, but why? Krethva demanded. Don't you see the danger? We see the danger very clearly, Krellox replied. But it is not the humans we fear, it is you. For 500 years, the Vraxian Empire has conquered and enslaved other species. You have spread fear and suffering throughout this region of space. The humans are only doing to you what you have done to so many others. The Confederation believes you deserve everything that is happening to you. The communication ended. Krethva stared at the blank screen, feeling his world crumble around him. The other species in the galaxy weren't afraid of the humans. They were happy to see the Vraxians defeated. On Earth, Admiral Patricia Cole was preparing for the final phase of the war. She stood in the command center, surrounded by displays showing the positions of all human and Vraxian forces. The Vraxian main fleet was in disarray, scattered across 3 systems running low on supplies. But they still had their homeworld, Vraxis Prime, a heavily fortified planet with billions of Vraxian citizens. We could bombard the planet from orbit, General Marcus Webb suggested. Show them we have the power to destroy them completely. Patricia shook her head. No, we're not going to kill billions of civilians. That's what the Vraxians would do, but we're better than that. We're going to do something they'll never expect. She activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Cole. Begin the blockade of Vraxis Prime. No ship enters, no ship leaves. We're going to trap them on their own planet and let them think about what they've done. The human fleet moved into position around Vraxis Prime. Hundreds of warships formed a perfect sphere around the planet, their weapons aimed inward. It was an overwhelming display of force, but not a single shot was fired at the planet below. On Vraxis Prime, panic spread through the population. They watched the human ships appear in their sky like a swarm of metal predators. They waited for the bombardment, for the missiles and energy beams that would rain down and destroy their cities. But nothing happened. The human ships just waited, silent and threatening. General Marcus Webb appeared on every communication channel on Vraxis Prime. His face filled screens and homes, offices and public squares across the planet. When he spoke, his voice was calm but firm. People of Vraxis Prime, I am General Marcus Webb of the United Earth Defense Force. Your military leaders declared war on humanity 5 weeks ago. They destroyed one of our research stations and killed 3 innocent scientists. They gave us 30 days to surrender or face extinction. He paused, letting his words sink in. We chose to fight, and now your empire is defeated. Your fleets are scattered. Your supply lines are destroyed. Your military installations are rubble. Your conquered territories are free, and you are trapped on your own world, surrounded by our ships. Across Vraxis Prime, citizens watched in horror and confusion. Many of them had believed their government's propaganda that the war was going well, that the humans were weak and would be conquered easily. Now they were seeing the truth. You might be wondering why we haven't destroyed your cities, Marcus continued. Why we haven't bombed your homes and killed your families. The answer is simple: because we're not like your leaders. We don't believe in killing civilians just to prove a point. He held up a small device. This is a data recorder. It contains the last words of the 3 scientists your military murdered. Their names were Dr. Sarah Kim, Dr. Paul Johnson, and Dr. Lisa Martinez. They were studying cosmic radiation, trying to understand how stars work. They weren't soldiers. They weren't a threat to anyone. But your leaders killed them anyway. Marcus played the recording. The voices of the 3 scientists filled the air. Their final messages to their families. Dr. Kim telling her daughter she loved her. Dr. Johnson asking his husband to take care of their dog. Dr. Martinez singing a lullaby she had sung to her son every night. The recording ended. Marcus looked directly into the camera. This is why you're now facing judgment. Not because we're cruel, not because we enjoy war, but because your leaders thought it was acceptable to murder innocent people. They thought we were weak because we value peace. They were wrong. For 3 months the blockade continued. No ships could enter or leave Vraxis Prime. The planet's economy ground to a halt. Food shortages began as imported supplies ran out. The Vraxian government tried to maintain control, but protests erupted in the streets. The citizens of Vraxis Prime watched as human ships patrolled their sky day and night, a constant reminder of their defeat. But they also saw something else, reports coming from their former territories. The species that the Vraxians had conquered for centuries were being freed by human forces. And instead of enslaving them in turn, the humans were helping them establish their own governments, providing aid and medical supplies, teaching them how to defend themselves. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, now part of the Liberation Fleet. He watched as human medical teams landed on a planet that had been enslaved by the Vraxians for 200 years. The aliens there, a species called the Kelvin, wept with joy as they realized they were finally free. "This is what we should have been doing all along," Lieutenant Amy Fletcher said beside him. "Not just exploring space, but helping those who need it." Jake nodded. "The Vraxians showed us why we need to stay strong, but these people are showing us why we need to use that strength wisely." Back on Vraxis Prime, the government was falling apart. Protests had turned into riots. Citizens demanded answers from their leaders. Why had they started a war with humanity? Why had they lied about how strong the humans were? Why had they brought this disaster upon their people? Finally, the military commanders who had started the war were arrested by their own people. Ambassador General Krethva was dragged from his office and put in chains. The Vraxian people had seen enough. They had watched their empire crumble. They had watched their economy collapse. And they had watched the humans free all the species they had conquered, proving that strength didn't have to mean cruelty. A new government formed on Vraxis Prime, led by a civilian council. Their first act was to contact Earth and request terms of surrender. They appeared on communication screens throughout human space, their 4 eyes filled with shame and regret. "We, the people of Vraxis Prime, formally surrender to humanity," the council leader said. Her name was Chancellor Vethry, and she had been a teacher before the war. "We know that we do not deserve mercy. Our former leaders committed terrible crimes against your people and against the species we conquered. We are prepared to face whatever punishment you deem appropriate." President Helen Carter received the surrender in Earth's capital. She stood before the cameras, representing all of humanity, and considered her response. Around her, advisors waited to see what she would say. Some wanted harsh terms that would ensure the Vraxians could never threaten anyone again. Others wanted mercy that would show the galaxy humanity's compassion. Helen chose both. "The terms of surrender are as follows," she began. "First, the Vraxian military will be reduced to 10% of its former size, enough for defense but not for conquest. Second, war reparations will be paid to all species affected by Vraxian aggression, including the families of our 3 scientists. Third, a human peacekeeping force will remain in the Vraxian system to ensure compliance with these terms." She paused, then continued. "But humanity is not interested in revenge. We want to build a better galaxy, one where species cooperate instead of conquer. Therefore, Earth will provide economic aid to help rebuild Vraxis Prime. We will share medical technology to help your people. We will send teachers and engineers to assist in your recovery. We want to show you." 5 years had passed since the war ended. Captain Jake Morrison, now Admiral Jake Morrison, stood on the observation deck of his new flagship and looked down at Vraxis Prime. The planet had changed dramatically since the day human ships first surrounded it. The cities were rebuilt. The economy was growing. And most importantly, the Vraxian people had changed. Still hard to believe sometimes, Lieutenant Amy Fletcher said, joining him at the window. She had been promoted to commander now and served as his second in command. 5 years ago, they wanted to destroy us. Now look at them. Below, the planet glowed with lights. Human and Vraxian ships moved together in orbit, cooperating on trade and defense. The Vraxian Republic, as they now called themselves, had become one of humanity's closest allies. People can change when they're given a chance, Jake said. The old Vraxian Empire was built on fear and conquest. But that was their government, not their people. Once the citizens saw there was another way, they embraced it. Chancellor Vethry had proven to be an excellent leader. She had worked tirelessly to reform Vraxian society, to teach her people the values of cooperation and diplomacy instead of domination. Schools now taught history honestly, including the mistakes that had led to the war with humanity. Children learned about the 3 scientists who had been killed and why starting wars without cause was both morally wrong and practically stupid. The species that the Vraxians had conquered for centuries were free now. Some had chosen to maintain diplomatic relations with the new Vraxian Republic, impressed by the changes they saw. Others had cut all ties, still angry about centuries of oppression. Humanity had helped all of them establish stable governments and defend themselves. On Earth, President Helen Carter prepared to address the Confederation of Aligned Worlds. It would be the first time a human leader had spoken to the Galactic Assembly, and the entire galaxy was watching. She stood in her office reviewing her speech one last time. Admiral Patricia Cole and General Marcus Webb sat nearby. The 3 of them had led humanity through the war, and now they would lead humanity into a new era of galactic politics. "Are you ready for this?" Patricia asked. Helen smiled. "I've been ready since the day the Vraxians declared war on us. They thought we were weak and we proved them wrong. Now it's time to show the galaxy what humanity really stands for." The time came and Helen stepped onto the stage in the Confederation Assembly Hall. Thousands of aliens from hundreds of species watched her, their faces and forms as diverse as could be imagined. Some looked curious. Others looked nervous. All of them had heard about what humanity had done to the Vraxian Empire. "Members of the Confederation," Helen began, her voice calm and clear. 5 years ago, the Vraxian Empire declared war on humanity. They destroyed one of our stations and killed 3 of our people. They gave us 30 days to surrender or face extinction. She paused, letting the assembly remember that time. Many of them had watched the war unfold, uncertain of what would happen. "They made a mistake," Helen continued. "They assumed that because we preferred peace, we were incapable of war. They didn't understand that humanity has learned over thousands of years how to survive against incredible odds. We didn't want to fight, but when forced to, we fought with everything we had." On the display screens around the hall, images appeared showing the war's progression, the destroyed supply lines, the scattered Vraxian fleets, the blockade of Vraxis Prime. "We won that war in 6 weeks," Helen said. "We could have destroyed the Vraxian homeworld. We could have enslaved their people the way they had enslaved others. Many species throughout history have done exactly that to their defeated enemies." She looked around the assembly hall, meeting the eyes of alien ambassadors. "But we chose a different path. We chose to show the Vraxians that there's a better way. We helped them build a new society based on cooperation instead of conquest. We provided aid instead of punishment. We gave them a chance to change." Ambassador Krelox of the Confederation stood up. He was an elderly alien with silver skin and wise eyes. "Why?" he asked simply. "Why would you help a species that tried to destroy you?" Helen smiled. "Because that's what makes us human. Yes, we can fight. Yes, we can win wars. But we'd rather build peace. We believe that every species deserves a chance to be better than their worst moments. The Vraxian people weren't our enemies. Their government was, and now that government is gone, replaced by people who want to build instead of destroy." She brought up a new display showing the current state of the region. "Look at what's happened in 5 years. The Vraxian Republic is now a democracy. The species they conquered are free and thriving. Trade routes have been established. Medical and technological cooperation has improved life for billions. And all of this happened because we chose mercy over vengeance." The assembly was silent, processing what they had heard. Finally, Krelox spoke again. "You have taught the galaxy an important lesson, President Carter. We have learned that humanity is not to be underestimated. But we have also learned that humanity is not to be feared. You are dangerous when attacked, but you are generous when given peace. He walked down from his seat to stand before Helen. On behalf of the Confederation of Aligned Worlds, I formally invite humanity to join us as full members. We would be honored to have your species among us. The assembly erupted in applause. Hundreds of aliens from across the galaxy stood and clapped their various appendages together in approval. It was unprecedented. Never before had a species been invited to join the Confederation so quickly. Helen accepted graciously. Humanity is honored to join the Confederation. We promise to work with all species to build a better, safer galaxy for everyone. Back on Vraxis Prime, Chancellor Vethry watched the broadcast with tears in her 4 eyes. 5 years ago, her species had been arrogant conquerors. Now they were learning to be something better. And it was all because the humans had shown them mercy when they deserved none. She activated her communication system and contacted Admiral Morrison. "Admiral, are you watching this?" "I am," Jake replied. "Your people should be proud, Chancellor. You've accomplished something amazing. We couldn't have done it without humanity's help," Vethry said. "You could have destroyed us, but you chose to save us instead. My people will never forget that." After the conversation ended, Jake returned to watching the planet below. Amy stood beside him, and they both thought about how far they had come. From that first terrifying encounter with the Vraxian fleet to now, standing as allies and friends. "Do you think other species will make the same mistake the Vraxians did?" Amy asked. "Will someone else see us as weak and try to attack us?" Jake considered this carefully. "Maybe. The galaxy is a big place, and there are a lot of species we haven't met yet. Somewhere out there, someone might decide we're easy targets. And what will we do if that happens?" Jake smiled grimly. "The same thing we did to the Vraxians. We'll show them that humanity is the deadliest species alive when we need to be, but we'll also show them that we'd rather be friends than enemies. We'll give them the same choice we give everyone, peace or war. Their choice." Far across the galaxy, the Confederation began broadcasting a new message to all known space. It was a warning, but also an invitation. The message was simple and clear. To all species exploring the cosmos, humanity has joined the Confederation of Aligned Worlds. They are a species unlike any other. They have the capacity for both incredible violence and incredible compassion. They prefer peace but are devastatingly effective at war. They have defeated the Vraxian Empire, once the most powerful military force in this region, in a matter of weeks. The message continued. Before engaging with humanity, understand what they are. They are a species that survived an ice age with primitive tools. They are a species that split the atom and reached for the stars. They are a species that has fought countless wars on their own world, and somehow learned from them instead of being destroyed by them. They are adaptable, intelligent, and determined. When attacked, they become the most dangerous predators in known space. But when offered friendship, they become the most loyal allies you could ask for. Choose your path wisely when dealing with humanity. They are, in every sense, the deadliest species alive, but they are also the kindest. The choice of which side of humanity you meet is entirely yours. The message spread across thousands of worlds and reached millions of species. Some heard it as a warning and decided to avoid humanity. Others heard it as an invitation and sought out contact with these fascinating creatures who could be both warriors and peacemakers. And on Earth, in a small cemetery where 3 graves marked the scientists who had died in the research station, humanity remembered why they had fought. Not for conquest, not for glory, but because some things are worth fighting for. The right to exist, the freedom to explore, and the chance to build a better future. Admiral Patricia Cole visited those graves every year on the anniversary of their deaths. She would stand there for a long time, remembering their faces, their voices, their dreams. And she would make them a silent promise. Their deaths had not been in vain. They had sparked a change that spread across the galaxy. Because of their sacrifice, humanity had shown the cosmos what they truly were. A species that could fight with unmatched ferocity, but